At Thanksgiving, my future mother-in-law, Deborah, laughed and said, "I canceled your wedding venue. Now you have to do it my way." I thought she was joking until I called the venue. My fiancé Matt's reaction made her scream. I knew Deborah was controlling, but I never thought she'd go this far. It all happened last Thanksgiving at her house in Houston. Matt and I had been engaged for about 8 months, and we'd finally booked our dream wedding venue, a beautiful old estate outside Austin with rolling hills, big oak trees, and fairy lights. It was expensive, but we'd saved up for it, and it was our choice. Deborah, however, had other plans. From the moment we got engaged, she made it her mission to push her ideas on us. She wanted to pick the guest list, the food, and even my dress. At first, I thought she was just excited, but as we kept planning, I realized she didn't want to help. She wanted to take over. The final straw came during Thanksgiving dinner. We were eating turkey and mashed potatoes when Deborah leaned back in her chair, swirling her wine like a movie villain. Then she laughed, a smug, knowing laugh that made me nervous. "I hope you didn't get too attached to that wedding venue," she said with a smirk. "Because I canceled it. Now you have to do it my way." The room went silent. I stared at her, trying to understand what she just said. Canceled? She had to be joking. This was our wedding, our money, our plans. Matt, sitting next to me, froze, his jaw tight. "You're joking, right?" I finally asked. Deborah just smiled and sipped her wine. "Oh, honey, it was for the best. That place was too expensive. I found a nice church instead, more traditional. And the reception. We'll have it at my friend's country club. It'll be perfect. Trust me." I didn't trust her at all. Shaking, I texted the venue manager under the table. "Hi, this is my name. Can you confirm our wedding reservation for date?" A minute later, I got a reply. "I'm sorry, but your reservation was canceled last week by Deborah last name. She said she was your wedding planner. We've already booked the date for another couple." My stomach dropped. She really did it. I looked at her furious. "How dare you?" Deborah just shrugged. "I did you a favor. You'll see. It's for the best." Matt stood up so fast his chair screeched. "Mom, what's wrong with you?" Her smug look faded. She didn't expect him to be angry. "Don't be dramatic, Matthew," she said, rolling her eyes. "You'll thank me later." Matt laughed, a bitter laugh, like he was trying not to lose it. Then he pulled out his phone. Deborah watched him, looking nervous. "What are you doing?" she asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he called his Uncle Jack. "Hey, Uncle Jack," he said. "Happy Thanksgiving. Listen, I need a favor." Here's the thing. Uncle Jack is a powerful lawyer, the kind who scares people like Deborah. Deborah's eyes widened. "Matthew, stop. There's no need for." "Yeah, so my mom just committed fraud. She pretended to be us and canceled our wedding venue. Can you look into that?" Deborah screamed, "Matthew, stop. You're overreacting." Matt turned away from her. "She lied, forged documents, and messed with a legal contract. That's fraud, right?" Deborah cried, "Matthew, I was just trying to help." He looked at her, cold and serious. "You didn't help. You ruined everything. Now you're going to fix it." Her face turned pale. She knew she'd messed up, and we weren't done. Deborah panicked. "Matthew, honey," she said, trying to sound sweet. "Let's not ruin Thanksgiving over a misunderstanding. We're family." Matt glared at her. "A misunderstanding? You canceled our venue, pretended to be us, and now we have no place to get married." Deborah pressed her lips together. "I just thought you'd see reason. That place was too expensive. I found something better." I snapped. "No, Deborah. This is about what you want, not us. You couldn't stand us making our own choices, so you took them away." She opened her mouth but couldn't say anything. She knew I was right. Matt wasn't finished. "Fix this, now." Deborah's face turned red. "Matthew, be reasonable. The new venue is already set." "I don't care," he said. "You're going to call them, tell them you lied, and if our venue is booked, you're paying for a new one. One we choose." Deborah clenched her fists. "And if I don't?" Matt didn't hesitate. "Then you're not invited to the wedding. And if you keep pushing, we're cutting you out of our lives." The table went silent. Even Deborah's husband, George, looked worried. "Now, son, let's not go that far," he said. Matt cut him off. "No, Dad, this isn't just about the venue. This is years of her controlling us. If she thinks she can get away with this, she's wrong. Deborah looked shocked. Her own son was standing up to her. Her face shifted from anger to fear. Matthew, she said quietly, I only wanted what's best for you. No, he said, you wanted what's best for you. The room was silent. For the first time, Deborah was facing real consequences, and she didn't like it. Then, just when I thought she might give in, she smirked. Oh, sweetheart, she said, tilting her head, you think you're in control. You're forgetting something important. Matt crossed his arms. What's that? Deborah leaned forward. The money. My heart sank. Deborah and her husband were rich, and they always reminded Matt they'd helped him succeed. But Matt and I had worked hard to be independent. Still, I knew what she meant. She looked at me, smiling like she'd won. Oh dear, you didn't think Matt paid for that venue himself, did you? My heart stopped. Matt froze. What are you talking about? Deborah's smirk grew. That expensive venue you loved. I saw the contract. I knew exactly how much the wedding venue cost and where the money came from. When Deborah said she'd have paid for it, I felt like the ground disappeared under me. Matt had told me he used his savings to pay for it. But Deborah laughed softly, looking smug. I transferred that money into your account months ago. I saw the withdrawal. So technically, I pay for the venue. And if I pay for it, that means I get to decide where the wedding happens, right? Matt's face turned pale. I couldn't breathe because Deborah wasn't wrong. She had tricked us. She waited, letting us think we were in control, and then she pulled the rug out from under us. I wanted to scream. She sat back, looking so pleased with herself, like she had won. Matt took a deep breath, his hands clenched into fists, but his face showed no emotion. That's when I knew this wasn't over. Matt didn't say a word. He just stared at his mother, his expression hard to read. The room was so tense it felt like all the air was gone. Deborah sat there, looking like she had won a game. She thought she had trapped us. She thought we had no way out. But she had no idea what Matt was about to do. Without looking away, Matt smiled, a cold, serious smile. Interesting, he said calmly. So you're saying you paid for the venue? Deborah's smirk faded for a second. That's right, and that means... Matt cut her off. You committed fraud. Deborah blinked. What? She said, but her voice shook. Don't be ridiculous. Oh, I'm not, Matt said, tilting his head. If you pay for it, why is my name on the contract? Why did the venue email us? Why did they say someone pretending to be us canceled it? Deborah's face twitched. Matt leaned closer. Mom, did you give me that money as a gift? Or did you lie to the venue and say you were in charge of the contract? She looked at her husband George like she wanted him to help, but he just sat there, shocked. If you pay for it for me, then I was in control of the contract, Matt said. And if that's true, then you pretended to be us, faked documents, and messed with a legal contract. That's identity fraud, contract fraud, and maybe even wire fraud, depending on how you sent the money. Deborah opened her mouth but couldn't speak. I could see the moment she realized how much trouble she was in. Matt pulled out his phone. Maybe Uncle Jack should look into this. I'm sure he'd find it interesting. Matthew. Deborah finally said, her voice rough. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just trying to. Matt stood up. This was never about the wedding, he said, his voice calm but sharp. This was about you controlling me, controlling us. You couldn't stand that I was making my own choices without your permission. Matthew, she whispered, shaking her head. Please no, he said firmly, I'm done. Then he dropped the big news. We're moving up the wedding. I turned to him. Wait, what? Matt looked at me, and for the first time since this mess started, he seemed calm. We're getting married next month, he said, and it's going to be exactly how we wanted. Deborah gasped. Next month? That's not enough time. You'll never find a venue that fast. You can't. Matt looked straight at her. Oh, we'd already have one. Deborah's face fell as she realized she wasn't invited. She panicked. Matthew, she said, you're being unreasonable. You need time to plan. No, Matt said firmly. We don't need time. We just need to be away from you. I could tell she was trying to find a way to fix things, to get back in, but Matt wasn't letting her. He took my hand and said, let's go, and we did. We walked out of Thanksgiving dinner, leaving Deborah sitting at the table with her uneaten turkey, her mouth hanging open. She tried calling, texting, and even had George reach out, but Matt ignored her. She had finally lost control, and she knew it. The next morning, Matt and I got to work. First, we called Uncle Jack. Matt explained everything. How Deborah pretended to be us, lied, and canceled our venue. Uncle Jack didn't hesitate. She committed fraud, he said. Do you want to press charges? Matt paused and looked at me. I could tell he was thinking about it. No, he finally said. Not yet. I understood. He didn't want to take his mom to court unless he had to. But we weren't letting it go. Uncle Jack told us to send her a formal letter explaining what she did and warning her that if she ever interfered again, we'd take legal action. Just like that, Deborah lost her power. Now that we cut her off, we moved fast. With Uncle Jack's help, we found a new venue in just a few days, a small private vineyard in the Texas Hill Country. It was perfect for us, and it was available next month. We invited everyone except Deborah. She found out anyway, probably through family or social media. When she realized she wasn't invited, she lost it. She left voicemails, some begging, some yelling. She tried showing up at Matt's office, but security turned her away. She even had George call and beg, but Matt didn't budge. If she shows up, I'll have her removed, he told George. This is non-negotiable. George sighed. She's never going to forgive you for this. Matt just laughed. Good. Our wedding day was perfect. The vineyard was beautiful, the food was great, and the atmosphere was just right. Best of all, Deborah wasn't there. I found out later that she tried to crash the wedding.